Okay, great. It's now time to introduce our guest speaker. You'll have seen Dr. Jacques Ludik's bio on the invitation, so I won't go through that again. I don't know what Jacques is going to say this evening, but I know he's well qualified to talk about this particular subject. But let me just mention something that I read literally within the last week or so, which was in one of the UK broadsheets. There's a new Chief Scientific Officer in the UK, Dr. Khalili, and he says, amongst other things, I've got a whole article, that artificial intelligence is a greater concern for the future of Britain than antibiotic resistance, climate change, or terrorism. The income, that's what it is. And then goes on at some length to talk about that. So I don't think we could be talking about a much more important or relevant subject. So over to Dr. Jacques. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, first of all, David, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak here. It's a privilege. I don't know a lot of people here actually, so this is awesome. But anyway, so what I would like to do, obviously thanks to the sponsors as well, Lex Africa, Virgin Atlantic, it's awesome. So I'm gonna, before I start, just want to get a sense of who is excited about AI. Okay, who is scared? Okay. I wanted to go with neutral, but optimistic, excited, it's the same. Okay, so no, that's good. Who knows about the fourth industrial revolution? Feels okay, cool. So I'm going to do a bit of introduction to both AI, artificial intelligence, and also to the fourth industrial revolution. And so what I do is, the topic here is businesses Africa ready for AI and the fourth industrial revolution? So I'll allude to that as well, but I'm going to start with just AI, industrial revolution, just providing the context around that. And what we can do, we can keep it also interactive, David. I'm not sure if there's a question or should we have questions after it. Yeah, I'm very flexible. If you really feel you want to ask something, that's good. I do a hard stop, probably in an hour's time, but I've got to fly back to Cape Town. So I'm in Cape Town. It's not going to be a Virgin Atlantic, but it's Kulula. But sorry, this not Virgin Atlantic. Okay, cool. So I'll just start with my personal massive transformative purpose in business and what I'm trying to do. And that's really around how can we shape a better future for us, societies, for business in general, in the smart technology era. And I refer to the fourth industrial revolution as the smart technology era, just to make it a bit more generic, because it's not just industrial. It's really impacting all disciplines, and I'll really talk about that as well. So I think we live in a very interesting time. Lots of opportunities. I think it's also scary. We enter a dangerous world, and that's why I think the word shape is very important. So we need visionary leadership, we need wisdom, and we need execution to actually make the right choices. And we definitely need to work together. And maybe just a comment, I don't know who's read the book Homo Sapiens. Somebody read that? Yeah, okay. I think the one thing that he talked about is some of the problems that we as Homo Sapiens experience is really on a global level, that you can't really solve on a national level as well. So therefore the need to actually have global collaboration around these kind of things, climate control, technology disruption, biotech, there's so many things. And I think one needs to look at it like that. So I think he's onto something there. Anyway, so I'm not going to talk too much about myself. I actually want to go straight to the fourth industrial revolution, but I just want to mention I do have a strong background in artificial intelligence. I actually built a whole career on that. And maybe just a few names. I did a PhD in AI, but I founded a company called Ceasing Systems, and that was the first African company, AI company that was sold to a multinational, General Electric. So at least we've got a good story around that for what it's worth. Learned a lot in General Electric as well, but then started the Machine Intelligence Institute of Africa, which is a non-profit organization, and really the aim of that is help to transform Africa through smart technologies, shaping a better future in the smart technology era. And we've got a community of more than 2,300 members. It's growing. There's a huge interest, obviously lots of hype around the Machine Intelligence, around AI. But that's great. It's been strategic. It's offered me also a platform to be at the United Nations, to actually speak in Geneva, Switzerland, on the AI for Good Global Summit. So I'm obviously interested in the Sustainable Development Goals and how we can actually shape a better future and transform Africa as well. We don't want Africa to be left behind, and I've got strong opinions and ideas around how we can actually make a difference on that front. But so that's that. I then also, just skip a few, my current company is called Cortex Logic, which is the next generation AI engine for business. So we live in the era, the smart technology era, where you see disruptive companies, platform business, the Ubers, the Airbnbs, all these type of companies, Facebooks, the Googles, they're all platform businesses. That's disrupting the markets, various markets. So that on the one hand, and then we've got corporates that also want to survive and thrive in this era. So what we do is to operationalize AI end to end and help the companies as well. Anyway, so that's in a nutshell. So the fourth industrial revolution, smart technology era. So, and I start with these words. We stand on the brink of a technological revolution that will fundamentally alter the way we live, work, and relate to one another. And I believe that is in fact true. And it's not just because of AI. AI is just one of the smart technologies. It's obviously an incredibly important one, critical one. So if you look at the definition of the fourth industrial revolution or the smart technology era, really it builds on the digital revolution, and it's characterized by the fusion of these new technologies, these smart technologies. And really what's happening here, which is frightening, is blurring the lines between the physical, the digital, and the biological worlds, and is actually impacting all disciplines, economies, and industries. And even that final comment is scary, and even challenging ideas of what it means to be human. Now, I think we've got a choice here. So we can create a world that's more human-centric, where we can have AI doing a lot more repetitive things and routine things, and we can shift more to compassion and human-centric type of jobs, and we should value those jobs as well. So anyway, so just that comment on that. So let's just move on. So the World Economic Forum, I've been quite inspired by some of the leadership there, and also the African leadership there. Paul Kagame of Rwanda. As a matter of fact, this is the guy just on the corner here. He said the opportunity to raise the quality of life is the biggest business opportunity. On the left-hand side, Robert Schuller from Yale University was saying we cannot wait until there are massive dislocations in our society to prepare for the fourth industrial revolution. And to the right, the chairman of Cisco was saying if you don't innovate fast, disrupt your industry, disrupt yourself, you'll be left behind. So we live in the 21st century. If you look at the 21st century skills, it's not just the foundational literacies, it's actually dealing with complex environments and dealing with changing environments. And it's difficult for people just to think, this is my career, I'm a doctor, I'm a lawyer, this is what I'm doing. I think in the world that we live going forward, one needs to probably disrupt yourself, be a lifelong learner, and so big challenges, and you need to get used to change. I need to get comfortable with that. And that's kind of the lesson for the kids and the children as well. And Professor Klaus Schwab, the president of the World Economic Forum, said in the new world, it's not the big fish which eats the small fish, it's the fast fish which eats the slow fish. And that is so true. So agile, being agile. Kodak is not here with us anymore. You see all these kind of, even Nokia, well, it's a smart technology company, what happened? So you can't rest on your laurels. Things change quickly. There might be a big disruptor. There could be six people in a garage doing something and come up with something incredible. So we live in an interesting world. Okay, so if you look at the next industrial revolution, so it's just quickly going through this. So in 1784, we really talked about the first industrial revolution, where water and steam was used to mechanize production. In 1817, we used electric power to create mass production, all to do with production. 1969, with electronics and IT and automated production, we started using electronics information technology to automate production. So now the automation comes into play. And now the cyber-physical system, the fourth industrial revolution, as is what I've mentioned before, but I think the focus is more on smart automation. So it's bringing intelligence into the automation, and that implies a lot of things. Assisted intelligence, autonomous intelligence, all sorts of different things, and I will talk about those things as well. So if you look at the fusion of these technologies, we talk about the technologies. Now I'm actually on the next slide, I will talk about the speed of the technology change and what those technologies are. But if you just look at this, and I think, who was surprised by the self-driving cars to see what's happening on that front? Did you expect this? Okay. Okay, who knows about the game Go? Okay, 1, 2 is not a lot of people. Now, you know chess, you know IBM, you know what happened there. It was basically brute force search. You can actually beat the best players in the world with chess. Now, Go is a strategic game, it's thousands of years. It was played in China, and it's on a slightly bigger board than chess. You've got black and white stones, and you move around, and you try to actually occupy territories and stuff. The number of moves that you can actually do on that chess, on that Go board, is more than the atoms in the universe. So you can't just do a brute force search. So what Google DeepMind did a few years ago was to actually use deep reinforcement learning, which is part of the neural network AI stack, and with Monte Carlo search, which is good old-fashioned AI, engineered a solution that got to superhuman performance and came up with strategies that humans hasn't even thought of. So, and that was obviously in a very confined, very well-defined space, but it shows the potential. There's no consciousness of anything, just superhuman performance in terms of strategy and so forth. So it basically paved the way, it showed what is possible. I think that woken up China and Korea and all those countries in the Asian bloc as well. And that's why you see governments going behind this. They realize this is something big. And the opportunities are immense. But anyway, so self-driving cars, drones, virtual assistants, software that translate and invest. We're also putting an AI hedge fund together. I think it's Africa's first AI hedge fund. So and there's a lot of AI in there as well. If you think about software is also used to discover new drugs, to algorithms. We've got also one of the companies in the Cortex group is Mosaic. It's looking at precision medicine for oncology, and very excited about that. A lot of AI in terms of that as well to help with drug discovery and all sorts of things. But anyway, but you also see this in a biotech side. I'm not going to go into that, but that is a very interesting, there's another big area, biotechnology. So if you look at the speed of technology change in the smart technology era, as humans, we see things on a linear scale. Time goes by linear. We feel things are linear. But then that's the reason we are surprised by self-driving cars or the superhuman performance that we suddenly get from AI and all these breakthroughs and that's happening. Because they're actually on an exponential path. And it is not just AI, there's a range of technologies. And I'm listing here, maybe you can't see it properly, but biotech, neurotech, nanotech, new energy, sustainability, ICT, mobile technology, sensoring, 3D printing, AI, robotics, drones. And basically what we see is the fusion of these technologies to create all sorts of powerful toolboxes to create incredible solutions. So that's why there's so much incredible opportunities, and we will see exponential breakthroughs and things happening. And I think the opportunities are unlimited. Basically what happened with smartphones, this is like a sensor. We are being instrumented as humans as well. So some people choose, I'm not going to use Facebook or some of these social media, but the fact of the matter is, even if you use Google Maps and all of that, there's sensors on, and there's constantly AI machines that can learn from data, from user interaction. So we're generating incredible amounts of data at exponential rates. So it's actually, the generation is going exponential, and the challenge for business is the data utilization is linear compared to the exponential rate. And it's not just social media, IoT, Internet of Things. And in the future, buildings, everything will be so instrumented with sensors all over the place, and they will become more intelligent because you can control them, and there could be machines adapting, and all that. So that's the kind of world. This is the kind of runaway train that we as a society put ourselves on. So, well, there's maybe a few people that's driving this, but we are the recipients of this. But the bottom line is there's still unlimited opportunities to shape a better future, solve problems at scale. Okay, so Andrew Ng mentioned AI as new electricity, and from Salesforce, Mark Benioff said the AI revolution is here. I think there was also saying software is eating the world. And what we mean by software is eating the world, it actually reminds me when I was at General Electric as well, where Jeff Immelt was saying, yesterday we were a hardware company, today we're a software company. Even though they are just selling jet engines and turbines and MRI scanners and all sorts of different things. And the reason for that is, all those, if you look at the jet engine, you've got about 2,000 sensors around around the jet engine, and with that information you can actually have a real-time model that models exactly the state, and can also do, so it allows you to do predictive maintenance. You can predict potential failures, potential issues, and so forth. And I think the big business cases for these Siemens and all these type of companies, equipment-based companies, is the fact that they can provide service-level agreements with their equipment, so they actually sell that as well. It's becoming software-defined, but I think it's also becoming artificial intelligence into software, because it's becoming AI intelligent software, effectively. Anyway, so you see tremendous growth in AI, talking about 100 billion market by 2025, between 40 and 100 billion. Now, this graph or diagram was done by Bloomberg Beta in San Francisco, I think 2015, and it was just showing the AI or the machine intelligence landscape. And basically what you see there is just a range of companies. There's obviously some tech giants in between, but a number of companies that's coming in and disrupting areas of enterprise. So that's why we say rethinking enterprise. And then industries. Every industry, you will see AI companies come to the fore. Rethinking human-computer interface. I think the technology stack, the last decade, there's a number of breakthroughs, especially with deep learning and dealing with unstructured data, audio, video, text, that type of thing. And that allows us to, it opens up so many opportunities. So if you think about artificial intelligence, one traditional type of application is what you find in data science, where it's all about uncovering hidden insights. And you've got a much stronger toolbox now, because it's not dealing with structured data, but it's also unstructured data. So you can work with text and all sorts of things. You can do sentiment analysis, and you can calculate net promoter scores based on that. You can listen to recordings, you can automate those type of things. There's a lot of image recognition, you can look at facial expressions, all sorts of things. So that opens the door for many, many things there. But anyway, so insight is one, but the same technology is also being used on the human-computer interface. So now we get intelligent virtual assistants, and if you think about, what's your favorite one? I don't know, who likes Siri? Siri is still not very clever. Well, I still have, who's got Google Home at home? Alexa? Okay. So I don't know, who saw the demo of Google Duplex? Google's Duplex demo. There's a few. I must say, intriguing, that scared a few people. Because when they demoed that, it was just, I think it was earlier this year, was it? Yeah. And Google demoed this, and they were actually doing live calls to restaurants and so forth. And it was actually AI talking, and they were doing the same, typical way humans talk, maybe say stutter words, may stop words, or things like that as well. But it sounded very convincing. And the people on the other side was thinking this was absolutely human. So it was, they were handling it exactly, and it handled the whole situation and the whole order in a very graceful, effective manner. So that's where things are going. And Google is quite advanced in terms of that technologies. Anyway, so I think last year this is what it looks like. So it's crazy. I'm going to just skip that one. So let's talk about artificial intelligence a little bit. Now, we saw these kind of definitions of AI. Basically, you can look at narrow intelligence, artificial general intelligence, and artificial superintelligence. Now, I'm still still a bit skeptical about superintelligence. I know Elon Musk and his few guys, and that's really talk about singularity and all of those type of things, and we can really talk about that. But let's just go through the definition. So narrow intelligence is really AI that equals or exceeds human intelligence or an efficiency at a specific task. And that's what we generally see in most of the applications. And I think we should really focus on that. We can have hybrids of these narrow intelligence doing all sorts of different things for us. But then you can potentially move to artificial general intelligence, where you have a machine that with the ability to apply intelligence to any problem. And then it starts to approximate humans effectively. And that becomes scary. But that's not impossible. It might be that this consists of a bunch of narrow intelligence just working together as well. And then finally you get superintelligence where they're saying an intellect that is much smarter than the best human brains in practically every field, including scientific creativity, general wisdom, and social skills. We still have to see if that is possible at all, but okay. If you look at, so just quickly, artificial intelligence, machine intelligence, deep learning. I'll quickly just define the terms. So with AIs, it's really the science engineering behind developing intelligent machines. Like software, we say machines, software machines, any of that. So that is AI. Very simplistic, but still accurate definition. Then a subset of that, and that was causing a lot of the breakthroughs, is machine learning. And the real breakthroughs was earlier this decade with deep learning. Maybe started 2008, 9, 10 as deep learning. And machine learning is really systems that can learn from data, whereas deep learning is also systems that learn from data, but it's actually modeling high-level abstractions. If you think about the visual cortex, the way we recognize faces, you also see effectively the first layer is V1, you can look at V1, V2, etc. And the first layer is really looking at segmentation and looking at lines and edges and all sorts of things. And then the next layer, as you go higher up, this is really putting it together and constructing objects, maybe a nose or an ear or and so forth. And then it can finally construct faces as well. So, and this is the way our brain works, at least from a visual cortex perspective. But you see the same kind of thing on an auditory level and other things as well. So anyway, so deep learning mimics that. And we're actually creating some incredible applications using that. And really the deep learning recipe is, we've got lots of data, we've got unbelievable computing power, and even Google is coming out with better GPUs, graphical processing units, called TPUs, which is really focused on, it's almost like in the past with computers, you need to write a program and it needs to, and you execute this, and it's got just very specific ways of executing this program. But if you now modify the hardware to suit the neural network, the way it trains some of the common operations, and you put it in hardware, you can do things quicker. And typically what happens with AI neural networks, a lot of the operations is happening on a layer. And so you can do all of those things in a layer, you can do in parallel. And that's why you can do things at vast speeds. And when we get to quantum computing and stuff, it's going to be even faster, significantly faster. So and then algorithms. There are breakthroughs in algorithms as well. But apart from that, we see it's almost like a chain reaction. We see now also a lot more money being put into this. Well, I did my PhD in the 90s. We used the AI stack in the 2000s quite effectively. I remember at all these companies, 1%, 2%, 3% improvement in throughput yield translates to millions of dollars for the likes of Sasol or Anglo or all these kind of companies that we work with. And so there's tremendous value, but I think we obviously live now in an age where there's no excuses. It's actually humans standing in the way of all these opportunities now, because we've got enough compute, there's enough data, we've got algorithms, we've got funding, so we will see more breakthroughs as well. Okay, so I'm going to skip that. It's a bit more technical. It's not necessary to go into the. This is actually what I wanted to show. So basically, the cool thing is, with typical AI, you had to do a lot of data preparation, massage the data, and all sorts of things. But with deep learning, you actually work with the pixels, with the raw pixels, and you just take it through this neural network, and it actually starts detecting edges, noses, eyes, and faces eventually. And this is the way it works. You obviously need the right algorithms and so forth to do that. Okay, so I'll skip that. So just some of the top AI applications. This was recent, and you will see a number of them is actually in healthcare, which is interesting. I think also if you look at the investments in AI-based companies, I see healthcare companies getting significant funding. So robot-assisted surgery, 40 billion. Virtual nursing assistants, 20 billion. Administrative workflow assistant, okay, that's more generic, 18 billion. Fraud detection is a big one. And I think also with cybersecurity, well, cybersecurity is only 2 billion here, but I think cybersecurity is massively important. Nobody wants to be hacked. But anyway, but there's a bunch of other applications there as well. As a matter of fact, you will see preliminary diagnosis, clinical trial, participant identifiers, etc. Okay, so now let's get to where these things are going. So currently you see AI that can learn from data, can do pattern recognition, and they can do perception. There's some abstraction, but it really needs a lot more improvements and breakthroughs on that level. And I think reasoning, for certain techniques you can start reasoning, but we still need to have a bit more breakthroughs so that these neural networks can explain why decisions are being made, why the predictions, why the confidence in this prediction, etc. So I expect a few breakthroughs there. And Jan LeCun, the guy that was really behind convolutional neural nets, which is doing image recognition and so forth, was saying the similar kind of thing to DARPA. This is DARPA. He was talking about intelligence and common sense. This is what we need if you look at what's the obstacle to progress in AI. We need perception, we need predictive models, we need memory, we need reasoning, we need planning as well. So you can expect some breakthroughs and improvements in research in those areas over the next few years, and that will make a big difference. It will open up more doors and make it more effective. Okay, so there's recently a TED talk that I would recommend that you watch if you're interested in the future of AI. I think it was last week, just a week before, I was at LeaderX and I was doing a talk on the future of AI. And the talk was, I think, about 40 minutes or something, and then we had another hour discussion afterwards. People were intrigued and everyone wanted to talk about it. And I shared some of these slides as well. So this is Dr. Kai-Fu Lee. He was, he also did a PhD in AI and stuff, and he worked at Apple and Google, so he spent quite a bit of time in the US. He's back in China. I think he's originally from Taiwan. But I share a similar kind of vision because what he's trying to do is we need to shape this better future. And he's talking about new jobs, and he's trying to be realistic about what's happening with jobs as well. So I recommend you can just go to Dr. Kai-Fu Lee, TED Talk, The Future of AI. It's about 15 minutes or so. Anyway, so what's in this talk? So he specifically, if you look at jobs, and remember, it's maybe not just jobs being disrupted. It's actually what's happening here is AI is focusing on tasks within jobs. So, but you can still classify jobs as repetitive, routine, optimizing, complex, and creative. And the jobs that's repetitive, you can expect to be disrupted by AI in the next 5 years. Routine jobs, and I will show you some of the examples of some of these jobs as well, in the next 10 years, and then jobs where you optimize in 15 years. And the jobs that should be safe, at least in this time frame, is complex, any complex and creative tasks. Okay, so that's on that axis. So if you look at it on this horizontal axis, and you look at some of the jobs, and you look at repetitive, you see telesales, dishwasher, customer support. Routines like truck driver, hematologist, security guards. You look at optimizing, radiologist, reporters, research analysts. You go to complex, CEO, M&A expert, economist. Creative, columnist, scientist, artist. And it's ranging from optimizing this way to creativity and strategy on this side. Now, what we need to do is to actually shape a better future. And we need to create a human-centric access to this, where you can specify compassion not needed versus compassion needed. And this is the kind of future that we need to move towards. Now, if you look at those jobs, and you just reorganize them on this two-dimensional axis now, then you would see the customer support and telesale. You see where those jobs are on the left-hand quadrant. If you go to the right-hand quadrant, you see some of these jobs there, and you can actually move some of these other jobs up because more compassion is needed. And you can argue that maybe artists should be up, and there's maybe lots of other examples of jobs where there's more compassion. Now, if we, I don't know if you can clearly see it's in red, but now we can look at other jobs which could be on the routine side, but where compassion is needed. A more human-centric approach: wedding planner, elderly caretaker, teacher, tour guides, beauty consultant, remote tutors, and then all these other ones, social workers, etc. And then we can add things like homeschool teacher, crisis hotline volunteer. You can add a bunch of other things. This is just give you an example. And you can take actually any job and say, how can I make it more human-centric? Even a doctor, medical doctor, that's going to change anyway. So because you need to look at, and even for lawyers, we talk about law is going to be disrupted as well. So you will see that AI machines is reading documents and doing things at scale. So it's going to be a very helpful tool, similar to the medical profession as well. So, but anyway, so this is how we need to shape that better future. So now if we think about where AI is coming into play, so in this left quadrant, you would see AI really coming hard in there and taking over a bunch of those kind of jobs. And when you move to this area to the right, you will see there's AI, but there's human plus AI. If you go to the top left, you will see there's some AI, but there's the warm embrace of humans, compassion, and all of that that's utilizing it. So it's working with machines and utilizing that in an optimal way. And I think there's a lot of jobs that's going to be really in that quadrant. And then we will get to, when it's compassion and it's creativity and strategy, I think you will see most definitely a lot of human activity. And I think this is probably kind of future that we're working towards, and I think what we need to do is to make sure that we create those jobs going in those, especially north of this horizontal axis. Okay, so I wanted to quickly share that. So, and then I'm going to skip a few things here. Just quick on AI. I just want to quickly do this. So, I think this is a slide from, I think it's from PwC, if I'm not mistaken, but. So if you look at the man-machine intelligence continuum, currently we see assisted intelligence, where you've got the nature of the task doesn't really change. And you're talking about machinery, processes in factories, boilers, and those type of things. And you see the tasks are automated, and humans don't learn, but machines learn. So that's assisted intelligence. But if you look at augmented intelligence, then the nature of the tasks actually change. And you see humans informing machines, and machines is informing humans. An example is business strategy analysis using machine learning or AI. You see smart clinical decision support, those type of things as well. And then we will definitely move to a world where we will see more autonomous intelligence, like autonomous vehicles, smart investments, decisions being made, where the nature of the tasks change as well, and decisions are automated, and machines learn continuously. So we're definitely moving towards that. And even if you look at the market opportunity, you will see it's massive. So this is what we will see over time. Basically, if you look at that left quadrant, I think we will see a lot of autonomous intelligence in that particular area, but this is the world that we're moving towards. Okay, so I think more from a business side, maybe I'm going to end off with a bit of business. Who's representing? Well, you're all business. Yeah. So let's just quickly talk about this. For me, when we say, okay, how can we make it real? Where do you start with these type of things? So I think the key thing here is to really start with the value drivers of a thriving business. And you need to say, okay, what can I do? How can these technologies help me to increase operational efficiency, effectiveness, revenue? How can it help me to create strategic value? Or if it's a customer-facing business, how can it enhance customer experience? How can we get to more targeted sales and marketing? I think with all these kind of apps and things that we get, I think especially the youth is getting used to real-time, on-demand services, apps. The games are working smoothly. It's personalized, gamified. Sorry, can you just the jobs. So basically, you see a range of things from that perspective. So I think there's expectation that business as well, that customers want to see real-time, on-demand, digital, personalized service. They expect you to have context. around the business. They're giving you data around them, so they expect a number of things there. So anyway, and it's all possible, given the structured and unstructured data that's available. The thing, if I just go to strategic value, I think we also live in the new age where data is the new oil. If you wanted to say, I think it's absolutely true in the sense that you can create new business models, new revenue growth opportunities using data as well. So and it also is important for smart R&D, innovation, collaboration. And I think one needs to think out of the box as well. As a company, you've got, this is the data that you've got. How can I enrich my data? With whom do I need to partner to actually create added value for my customers? And those type of questions. So anyway, so those are things that's important. If you think about the insurance industry, I think we're really with AI looking at enhanced services and new value that can be created. You can redefine the value proposition with more personalized customer experience. You can redefine the whole distribution with digital advice. You can enhance efficiencies with more automated, augmented underwriting. And then if you can reduce the claims processing times also with robo-claims adjusters, etc. And there's a bunch of AI technologies that support these technologies as well. So opportunities in abundance to create a different world and create new business models and unlock value. Okay, so in Cortex Logic, we basically look at solutions, and I'm not going to talk too much about that. I actually want to go to some slides that talks about South Africa as well. But in general, before I get to that, for a thriving business, the interesting thing is we are working with some corporates that are thinking about instrumenting their business even more across the whole value chain. And the more data you've got across the value chain, you can start building models of the business itself. They talk about digital twins. You can build a digital twin of a jet engine. You can build a digital twin of a process, a chemical process, a furnace. But you can also build a digital twin of a business if it's instrumented enough. And you can even do the same of customers. If you've got a lot of information with customers, you can build a model that approximates potential behavior that you see. And if you can start doing that with a business across the value chain, and you've got models that represent reality, you can then do what-if scenario analysis, you can do optimization, you can almost treat it as a game, and you can start optimizing. It's almost like that game of Go, where you start applying AI on that scale. So you can apply AI on multiple scales. So there's many things that one can do in terms of that. If you've got a customer-facing business, then you want a growing and satisfied customer base, a bunch of applications. But I think you actually got a saying, technology makes it possible, people make it happen. And your employees are pretty important. And one needs to think about upskilling, even in this new smart technology era, one needs to carefully think, how can you reuse people, how can you upskill people, how can people adapt to this new environment, and how can they become more productive? And if one really carefully think about this, there's all sorts of solutions where you can have tools that's empowering people. And then smart systems is really around cybersecurity, fraud, a bunch of things around that as well. So I'll skip some of this. If you look at the whole analytics spectrum, just to give you a quick idea, so typically you can look at analytics, you can say, you get descriptive analytics, and it's basically saying what happened. You can get diagnostics, telling you why did it happen. Discovery is looking maybe at the clusters and patterns in the data, and it's discovering hidden insights. And then you can move to predictive, which is obviously clearly incredibly valuable because it's actually saying what could happen, maybe a day ahead, a week ahead. And then I think very importantly, you want to make sure that you can integrate with the business. So you want to be prescriptive. You can say, how can I make it happen? How can I use my predictions? How can I use my hidden insights to actually create how can I use these kind of intelligences to create better solutions? And then cognitive is really learning at scale, reasoning with purpose, explaining, interacting naturally. And so you will basically see AI across the whole spectrum here. Okay, so sorry, this is on the MIA thing. So you can go to the, by the way, if you go there, machineintelligenceafrica.org, you would find also on the events page a bunch of presentations, resources, and all the events happening in this space. So we're trying to track a bunch of things there. So it's worthwhile going to machineintelligenceafrica.org. So you can see all those events escalating as well. It's amazing. Exponential. Even there. So, I mentioned the 21st century skills that's needed. So the complex challenges, critical thinking, problem solving, creativity, communication, collaboration, and then character qualities, the changing environment, curiosity, initiative, persistence, adaptability, leadership, social, cultural awareness. Those type of skills are really critical. And this is what our kids, they got to focus on these type of things. So, okay. So I've got a few things here. Yeah, this is all about the AI revolution, and really the world, this is dangerous. It could either pull the bottom billion out of poverty and transform dysfunctional institutions, but that would require absolute collaboration from public and private sector, everyone, or entrenched injustice and increasing inequality. We don't want that world. So we need to shape that better world, and we need to manage it. So that is the. By the way, I'll make this presentation available. I'm not going through everything in detail because I also want to leave time for Q&A and questions and some interactions and stuff. But what I want to do is I just want to quickly go to this. Artificial Intelligence is South Africa Ready? This was done by Accenture, and they're kind of summarizing some of the AI technologies, some of the things that I talked about, where we talk about sensing, comprehension, act, and they've given some illustrative solutions. So this is kind of solutions that we are working on as well: virtual agents, identity analytics, cognitive robotics, speech analytics, recommendation engines. You see how well Amazon is doing recommendation engines. So why do we need AI? So basically, this is interesting. So most consumers and enterprise clients will select product and services based on the company's AI instead of the company's traditional brand. How good are you in terms of providing what the customer needs? Is it personalized? So most interfaces will not have screens and will be integrated into daily tasks. Adaptive workforce, ecosystems, power plays, AI as the new UI. It becomes the new UI. And why do we need keyboards? Why do we need mouses and all those kind of things? In the future, we will just talk. And we just able to, and it will become. That's why it will become a more human-centric world in a sense as well. But we still need to make sure that we make wise choices in terms of how we live and how we. We've got definitely a problem. We're sitting in a transition where we've got kids and a lot of us spending a lot of time looking at cell phones and stuff. So I think it's all a transition. It will probably always be a transition. It's all how we manage that transition. There was I think a questionnaire out or a survey. 78% of South African executives say they need to boost their organization's competitiveness by innovating through investments in AI technologies. So we say that. And what is holding South Africa back? Well, in a new era in which AI has the potential to overcome the physical limitations of capital and labor and open up new source of value and growth. And I think South Africa, I speak to a lot of Uber drivers as well and try to test what they think and so forth. And I think South Africa, there's also a laziness in general. So if we want to compete international, we need to be working a lot harder, I think, and learning more and not rest on our laurels. Otherwise, we will be left behind. So, and they talk about this chronic productivity deficit in South Africa. So we've got some interesting challenges. We do have, anyway, so one can elaborate on that. But I think the three main channels through which value will be generated: intelligent automation, augmenting existing labor and capital, and then innovation diffusion. So obviously innovation breeds innovation as well. And this is just showing economic growth forecasts without AI and with AI. So there's significant impact for South Africa in terms of GDP. Okay, so I think there's a few other things in terms of what we should be doing, creating a vibrant ecosystem. That's why I've been with Machine Intelligence Institute of Africa. I'm trying to work and collaborate with universities, startups, companies, large companies and so forth, working with government. I think I would love to see a government that works like Uber, seamless. Just think about it, it's possible. And I think with blockchain, we will get to more decentralized systems. I would love a more direct democracy, where you still need visionary leadership. We still want people, but we can still have smart technology in place to help shape that better future. And we need to be creative and think about the kind of future that we want as well. And I think also practice responsible AI. So just recently I was in Pretoria participating in it's a United Nations conference actually in Pretoria. We talked about lethal autonomous weapons. That's a danger. And it's not like we talked about nuclear on the one day and the other day it was lethal autonomous weapons or killer robots. That's a massive danger, and the problem is it could be very accessible to terrorist organizations as well. So we're entering a dangerous world. I don't know who saw, there was a presentation, it was the Venezuelan president speaking, and it was a parade, and then there was a drone exploding in front of them, and everybody was just scattering and stuff. I don't know if you've seen that video. You should see it on Google. That was obviously not a smart drone or anything. I think they quickly disabled it, but it just shows you, this is the dangerous future. You're going to have very small little drones that can do facial recognition, target people. Dangerous. So shaping their future, one needs to be super careful. But you also see that countries are taking this very seriously. They see incredible opportunities, solving massive problems. We can solve climate. Well, we can. Well, we have to see, but there's major problems that we can solve with these type of technologies and stuff. And we need to look at a comprehensive long-term vision, the role of AI in the country's economic development. This is what China's doing, that's what France is doing, and all these other countries. And even on, I think I've got a LinkedIn post, and by the way, you're welcome to connect on LinkedIn, and you can read some of my LinkedIn posts where I also write about some of these things as well. A very interesting world. And maybe the final thing that I want to say, I think for business, are we ready? There are AI companies that can actually help you. And I think this is a very interesting, I think this is from, I'm not sure, I think, yeah, this is Accenture still. On the y-axis, they talk about innovation. On the x-axis, they talk about collaboration. And they've actually, again, did a survey. And specifically, most companies were in the observer category. Not really innovating, not really collaborating. Some companies innovating, some companies collaborating. And then you've got some companies that's doing collaborative well, they talk about collaborative inventor, but collaborative innovation. And this is the kind of companies that kind of partner. They realize we live in the API economy, it's plug and play. You need to collaborate to make things work if you want to move faster, if you want to be agile. And this is what I would recommend. If really embrace companies that can potentially help you move quicker and faster and help you thrive in the smart technology era. And I'm going to end with that. Thank you. So, any questions? I think let me just see, actually, time. I could have, there's a few other slides, but yes, question there. Cool.
Hi, Dumi from HSF. So I've read about two interesting stories. One is about two AI programs that started speaking to each other in a language that the inventors couldn't understand, and they had to shut them down because they didn't know what was going on. And the second was about an AI program that was trying to break out of the firewall. What do you think about, there are also predictions that at some point AI will overtake human intelligence, and this will happen in our generation. What do you think about those risks, and what are we doing to mitigate them?
Okay, first of all, the first one is fake news. If you think about even the current if you look at what Google is doing with translations as well, it's in a similar way, as I've mentioned. If you look at that vision example, where I showed did segmentation, it created then little group things together, it create abstractions of that. You can do the same with languages, and you can create representations of languages. And that's what they were talking about, kind of working on this kind of level there as well. But it's almost like in a thought or a kind of level. But really that didn't pose anything. It's not like there's consciousness or anything. That's just abstract representation of the underlying concepts. And it's just a way to translate. So I think we've just, it is just like we've humanized that. I don't think it's completely out of context, and it's not a danger at all. That's not a problem. It's maybe your other questions in terms of where this is going. So, I think if you think about the human brain, well, there's various opinions around this. Clearly, if we get to a world where you can simulate, where you get the complexity of the human brain, 10 to the power of 11 neurons, 10 to the power of 4 synapses, interconnections as well, you might get emergent properties like consciousness and all sorts of different things. So you might get to a very interesting world. That's why we need to shape it. We can still have narrow intelligences that's really focused on solving very specific tasks. We don't need to create a world or machines that emulate exactly what we do as humans. The danger is, however, the danger is there. So I don't think super intelligence is out of the question. I think it is a real risk. I still think there's a lot of breakthroughs still necessary. We haven't figured out the brain by a long shot. If we understand the brain, and I think we will one day. There's on YouTube also Closer to Truth, a YouTube channel that they interview all these neuroscientists and physicists and all sorts of different people that's got very interesting opinions. And I think there's if you listen to all of them, this collective wisdom, you can probably filter out some of the reality and actual truth and where things can potentially go. And when you listen to that and distill things, you realize that yes, that could be possible. I'm not sure if in our lifetime, but it could be possible. So yeah, so we got to be careful. That's why we're entering a dangerous world. Yeah. Any other questions? Yes.
So Craig from Flight Center Travel Group.
Yes.
So artificial intelligence, all of your slides have been, okay. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
It's all been focused towards a very first world
Yes.
kind of mindset. With South Africa being so entrenched with a traditional mindset, how do you think we're going to get over that from a government and that point of view?
Yeah, so we've got real challenges. I think there's some bigger fundamental problems. We talk about land and all that, but we need to think about education. We need to think, I think it's, okay, I'm going to get to that specifically. I just want to, I think we need to disrupt telecommunications. We need almost like free internet, access to the internet. My son is 15 years old. He's learning so much with courses and YouTube, and I've just put him on that path, a little bit of programming, and he's going. And we want all kids and people to actually have that kind of access. And we especially need this here in South Africa, and Africa in general, because we are going to be left behind if we don't do something drastic in terms of that. And I know we need to work through all these issues, and there are absolutely injustices and all of that, but we need to look at that. Now, so I think there are some thought leadership here. We are going to speak to government as well via some of the business initiatives that I'm busy with, and also non-profit initiatives. But we need collaboration of all people. We need buy-in. We need all stakeholders to get together. We won't solve this on our own or a single organization. It's going to be the business sector, the public sector. We all need to get together and see this as something very serious. You can see that the first world is taking this incredibly serious. Really, we're going to get to a world where, if you think about Uber, a lot of money is going out of the country. If you think about advertising, I speak to Nas Paris, and you can see that Google and Facebook grabbing that advertising revenue. It's going, not here, it's out. So we need to create winning platform businesses, and that's why, from a Cortex Logic side, we've got an AI Tech Capital Fund. We're investing in winning platform businesses on the African continent. We are working with corporates. We're trying to create winning businesses that can compete internationally. And I'm trying to be optimistic and be positive around this. So trying to do my part, but there's some other great initiatives around this, but it's not an easy problem. Yeah, so I'm not sure where this is going to go. Okay. Yes.
Hi, sorry.
I just wanted to be very provocative.
Yes.
There's a difference between falling behind and opting out. So at the end of the day, if what you're saying is you're potentially walking into a potentially very dangerous situation, there is room for opting out and actually saying, as a country and as a continent, we choose to not go down this pathway. And it doesn't mean that you necessarily get left behind, and it doesn't mean that you necessarily lose out, but that you should be able to make a sensible decision about whether, given all the things that are on the side of it going horribly pear-shaped, it reminds me very much of nuclear power. We will use it in medicine on one hand and achieve amazing things, and we will completely blow up continents on the other side. So what is your choice as a country, and what is your choice as a continent in terms of following this through? And would it be a sensible decision to actually go wandering headfirst into something that is potentially so dangerous?
Yeah, so okay, this is my answer. If you read Homo sapiens as well, give you broad perspective as well. I think we are sitting with, the problem is, the internet, we've almost created a human nervous system for the world. We are connected. The world has gone very small, much smaller. So I think you'll make the wrong decision if you isolate yourself. Mm-hmm. And the reason for that is economies are connected. We've got climate problems. We're so entrenched, our whole economy, everything with the world. So that's why even what Trump is doing, so I'm not sure if that's wise. We need to think more as a Homo sapiens, a species together, and how can we collaborate. And I think in the future, we probably need to think about countries as well. Maybe we're going to move towards a world where there's more smart cities connected in this web, and we've got more influence around the area where you live, more direct democracy and influence in terms of what's happening around this, but you're connected with the world. And you, so I think it's probably going to be more, that's probably more the solution. And in that kind of world, I can't see how you can just be, you can obviously try and opt out as a smart city. I'm just isolated. Well, it's going to be interesting. I'm not sure.
So it's the Wakanda down in
That's fiction. That's fiction. Yes, it is.
Hi, sorry, Robin from Overtake. So if you have a look at your graph and you have a look at where AI is going to be taking over, it's blue collar work, and it's a proportion of a lot of it is. So you're looking at truck drivers, you're looking at agriculture, you're looking at manufacturing. That's blue collar work. So if you look at most of society, and if you look at South Africa in particular, that's most of society. So you're setting yourself up for civil unrest if you go down the route of AI.
Exactly right. So this is where we need to be wise and think. We need to create those jobs. We need to think about even an Uber driver. How do you make it more human centric? How do you create? You need to think about every job and project forward, and see how do we create this and make it more valuable. Teaching. Why is it not being? We're not paying that properly. We need to change the way we value human-centric type of jobs. So I think it is a kind of a function of the current economic system, the way we value jobs and stuff. That's why we sit where we sit. Why do we want humans to do repetitive stuff, routine stuff? We've got a human brain. We want everybody. Let's reward creativity. Let's reward compassion, love, human-centric. I don't think entertainment is going away. There's so many other things, artists being artists and so forth. So I think we just need to be creative. Imagine a better world and create that kind of world. So I don't think we should get stuck with the current scenario, but it requires something dramatic and drastic, and so that's why it's not going to be simple and easy. I think we're in for a tough road. Yeah.
Hi.
We've got 2 minutes and I have to run. Yes, sorry. Yes, please.
Hi. I really enjoyed your whole evaluation on people. I'm a reward strategist, and I think for me it's concerning that, yes, the lower levels of one would say intelligence is not going to be there. But I think for me, I want to know, you talk about shape up. Obviously, as countries, we need to speed up and scale up, right, before we shape up. What is the measurement? How far are we? So I'm not going with opt out. We need to speed up and we need to move forward, because the technology in terms of manufacturing is definitely here. I see it. I work for Mondelez. Our competitors are sitting in Germany because of innovation, what they're doing. How far are we, and how fast do we need to speed up to catch up? Have you measured this?
I feel kind of. I've seen situations where we've leapfrogged. M-Pesa in Kenya, for instance, in financial services. I think we can leapfrog with medicine. If you think about the way we work with medicine in the African context. So I see there's a lot of opportunities where we can leapfrog and we can create really competitive solutions that we can take internationally as well. So that's the opportunity. Another one, well, I was, just before I started Cortex, I was at Jumo. Jumo's next generation mobile money marketplace. And they're doing mobile microloans and those type of things via feature phones. And there was like exponential growth in countries like Tanzania and Ghana and those type of countries as well. So, and they're going into Pakistan and now they've just got $52 million investment to go into Asia as well. So that's an example of,
And mining, is there,
mining.
you guys measured the measurements of mining, I mean, in Africa?
Yeah, mining is interesting. So I'm working with a lot of my previous AI company, we work with all the mines, minerals, metals, mining industry. You talk about mining, yeah. The mines of tomorrow is going to be super automated and less, so it's going to disrupt workers, no question about it. It's, if you go very deep down the ground, it's very dangerous for humans. So we're going to move to a world where you will see a lot more robotics and things happening there. So we need to shift it. We'll need to get jobs out of that dangerous zones. And so we've got to be more creative, reward human-centric jobs. We shouldn't get stuck with the traditional jobs. Yes. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Before you go,
Yes.
on behalf of the membership, a small token of our appreciation.
Thank you very much.
Which has currency in Cape Town, I can promise you. Thanks. You start your running. I know you've got to get to the airport. As we suspected. Thanks. As we suspected, that's just the tip of the iceberg, and it's just an introduction of the subject to us. However, let's go and do something which